In this lesson, we're going to look at how to decode word problems. First, we're going to talk about words and the symbols that translate to them, and then we're going to look at several examples. Let's take a look first at how to translate words into symbols. So on this side, you will see a variety of different words, and these are the symbols that can replace them. You might have seen this before. If you didn't take an opportunity to write these words down, then you should write them down now. The only thing that's really particularly new here is the addition of parentheses. And if you see the quantity of that phrase, then everything that comes after that phrase would be inside of a set of parentheses. Or if you have times the sum of or divided by the difference of, everything that comes after sum of and difference of would be contained within parentheses. There are a number of situations where those words and that translation is enough, but then sometimes you have a word problem where you have to do a little more decoding. So let's look at this example. The Logan family is renting a beach house from Aqua Coast Beach Rentals. Mr. Logan called the rental agency ahead of time to get the total cost for 9 days. The rental agent explained that since the family plans to stay during the off-season, there will be a one-time discount of $25 applied to their rental cost. Woohoo for the Logan. The Logans will pay $920 in all. Let C be the daily charge for renting the cabin. Write an equation for the total charge of renting a cabin for C per day. So before we go any further on this, let's look at what it's asking us to do. It's asking us to write an equation. It's not asking us to find the charge. It's not asking us to figure out how much it costs per day. It just says write an equation. So an equation is numbers and symbols and plus signs and an equal sign. Okay? And we also know that C is the daily charge for renting the cabin. You'll notice as you look through that problem, nowhere does it tell you how much it costs per day, but there clearly is a cost per day. And there's also a one-time discount of $25, and their total will be $920. So if I start thinking, well, let me think about this for a second. Let's say it's maybe $3 per day. So how would we figure out how much it costs? Well, we would take 3 times 9 plus the 25. Actually, it would be minus 25 because it's a discount. So 3 times 9, and we want it to equal 920. Well, that clearly doesn't equal 920. So what would we change? Well, maybe we would increase it from 3 to 4. And that clearly doesn't equal 920. And maybe we would change the 4 to a 5. And of course, this would be one way that you could figure out what the right answer is. What is the cost per day to rent this cabin? However, what you'll notice is what we're changing there is the variable. Variable actually means it's varying. That part that we're changing is the C. So we replace this with the C, and traditionally we put the C first, or the 9 first. And we get 9C minus 25 equals 920. That's an equation for the total charge of renting a cabin per C per day. Let's look at another example. Students in Mrs. Romero's 3rd grade class are working on times tables, and they demonstrate mastery by passing tests. Bryce has passed 12 tests so far. His classmate Deb has passed 3 tests of them. From now on, Bryce plans to take and pass 3 tests per week. Meanwhile, Deb wants to catch up to Bryce, so she plans to do 4 per week. Let W represent the number of weeks. Now, what it's asking us to do, for each student, write an expression for the total number of tests passed after W weeks. Total number of tests for Bryce, total number of tests for Deb. And then write an equation to show when the total number of tests would be the same for each student. And after that, Deb's going to pass them up, right? Because she's going to be doing more per week. Okay, so it says to write an expression. So this time we're not looking for an equation. We don't need an equal sign in our answer. It just says to write an expression for each of the students. So you can see there, Bryce has passed 12 so far, and he's taking 3 per week. So again, you can say, okay, after 1 week, he would have 12 plus 3 times 1. After 2 weeks, he would have 12 plus 3 times 2 weeks. Then he would have 12 plus 3 times 3 weeks. 12 plus 3 times 4 weeks. So that thing that's changing every time, that's our variable, which in this case is going to be W. So for Bryce, it's going to be 12 plus 3W. Now for Deb already passed 3 of her tests, and then she's going to do 4 per week. So hers would be 3 plus 4W. Remember that per, whenever you see that, it's most likely an indication of multiplication times the variable. So 4 times W plus the 3, plus the 3 that she already had. So a couple of tricks here. Notice that I read it a couple of times. I went back over it. I made sure that I understood how the numbers were working by using smaller numbers as like trial, and then I kept changing those smaller numbers, and then what's changing is going to be replaced by your variable, whatever variable it's asking. And then when I get done, I make sure that I answered what it asked, and it said to write an expression. Are these expressions? Yes. Now it says to write an equation to show when the total number of tests would be the same for each student. So we want to know when these two things are equal. So the equation will be 12 plus 3W equals 3 plus 4W. And at this point, I could solve that equation and it would tell me the number of weeks that it takes for Bryce and Deb to have the same number of tests. And then if I wanted to, I could plug that W back into 12 plus 3W to see how many tests they would actually have passed at that certain point. But it doesn't ask me to figure out what W it is. It says, write an equation, and I did that. So I'm all done. I have one more example for you. Mitch and his friends are planning a trip to the Tsunami Springs water park. The employee Mitch spoke to on the phone said the total cost for all 7 of them would be $154. This includes an entrance ticket and a $5 tube rental fee for each person. So each person has to charge $5. What is the cost of the entrance ticket? Now notice, it doesn't say that you need to set up an equation here, but an equation would really help you to solve this. So each person is going to pay an entrance ticket fee, which we don't know. That's what it says. What is the cost of the entrance ticket? I don't know that. So that's going to be my variable. It doesn't tell me what the variable is going to be. So let's say it's an E for entrance ticket. Each person is going to do an entrance ticket and a $5 rental fee. So whatever the entrance ticket is, I'm going to add $5 to it. And then I'm going to multiply that whole thing, the E plus 5, times 7. And the total, it says, is $154. Now, how do you make sure that we're multiplying 7 times the entire E plus 5? If you said put it in parentheses, you are correct. If we think about that, whatever the entrance fee is, we would add 5 to it, and then we would multiply it times 7. Versus some of the other ones that we looked at, the other examples, the 7 was only times the E, and then there was a flat fee or a flat discount for the whole total. But this time, the rental fee is per person. So we have to add the entrance ticket plus the $5 rental fee. Put that in parentheses, because each person is a key that it's going to be multiplication times the 7 people that are taking the trip, and the total is 154. And then we have to solve that. So we're going to distribute and do 7E plus 7 times 5. And then we're going to switch the 35 over to the other side by doing the subtraction property of equality. And that becomes 7E equals 119. And then we can divide 119 divided by 7 is $17. And if you think through what we did here, basically there's a 5 rental fee for each person, so that's $35 for the whole group, right? 7 times 5 would be $35 for the whole group. We take that off of the total, and then what's left is the cost, the entrance fee for all 7 of them. You see? You see? And then you divide by 7, and that's going to be your entrance fee for each person, which is $17. And that's just a couple of examples of how you can use algebra to model real-world situations and solve them.